What's up, gamers? Welcome to Battle Mallet Podcast, episode 57, and I did not get interrupted this time, but Jason and Trace are laughing off camera, on camera, off mic. It's good times. For anyone that isn't familiar, the Battle Mallet Podcast is the journey of three busy gamers playing games that they love, balancing life with those games, and making their way to the Nova Open Convention every year and possibly other major gaming events? Question mark. In tonight's episode, we are going to cover the new Underworlds FAQ Errata document.
Pink text.
Yeah, we don't cover the far list because we don't play Championship, but there are two great podcasts out there that will cover those in detail, I am sure, in Path to Glory and What the Hex. And then after that, we're going to talk about the year of 2023 in review and our hopes and dreams for the 2024 year. I don't know why I said it like that, but I did. So here we are. My name is Jerod Johnson, and tonight I am joined by Trace Hyde.
What's up, guys?
And Jason Tabled Noob Murray.
And gals.
Thades and gentle thems.
Oh, you know what? It's going to turn into a new game. So you probably didn't hear all the giggling and laughing, but every night when we get on and we talk and hang out, Jerod goes, I'm going to bed. And Trace and I play this game to see how long we can keep him going. It's very successful most nights. It typically ends in 45 minutes to an hour longer. But now I think we have a new game, and that is the start of the podcast. And how can we derail it as long as we possibly can?
See how long we can push out the start time?
Yes.
Yeah, it seems like fun.
It was completely unintentional last time.
Anybody got any dad jokes off the hip?
No, I did riddles tonight.
You did do riddles.
I had one written down.
Trace is doing some research. So while Trace is researching, we're not going to cover what we've been up to because we're going to cover that in later segments. So the intro section will be short. So really, I'm just delaying while
I can't get to it fast enough. Just keep going.
Can't. Yep. All right. We'll find it later. Maybe we'll throw one in the outro. So anyway, so I guess this is it for the intro. Any major landmarks?
That was eventful.
Community shout outs.
Not
coupon codes to give away? No. Oh yeah, we don't have sponsors. So no. Cool. Well, short and sweet. That'll close us out for the outro and intro. So good.
Man, you don't need any help tonight.
Professional. We'll come back and we'll talk about the Underworlds, Errata, and Designer's Commentary.
And we're back from where I don't know, but we've returned to the Death Gorge for the December 2023 rules update. This was a big one, ladies and gentlemen. Probably one of the biggest I can recall in memory in just the all-encompassing documents and updates that we've received. I might be wrong about that. We didn't tally them all, but it feels like this is a major update, one that we haven't seen in at least a year. You guys think that's accurate? It feels huge.
No, it is. Yeah, I think it touches more warbands, like warband touches, than we've ever seen in a single update, other than adding all of the keywords to historical warbands. When they added Brawler and Hunter and Minion and all that stuff.
Yeah, when they went to the keyword system. Yeah. For me, before we get into the details of some of the bigger ones, it feels like this will have the biggest impact that we've seen, at least since we've been playing Nemesis, because it really updates a lot of cards. We've seen updates where the errata or change wording on fighter cards and the character cards or a plot card, but not often. It has happened. It's not like it's the first time ever, but actual cards, in deck cards that are actually getting wording changes or just the way that they play completely differently, both in a warband and in a universal. So it's really, really exciting. And I think we'll start with Domatan. So I don't play a whole lot of Domatan, but I think this is a pretty significant change. They changed their inspiration.
Yeah,
it's pretty big.
Yeah, it's a big deal. So, what is it currently?
Currently, good. Unless you have your card on you, you're not going to.
I got it. So, harness the ether. This is a reaction. Harness the aether. Aether. After another friendly fighter's activation, it's a reaction. After another friendly fighter's activation, inspire this fighter, then uninspire each other friendly fighter. So this is the same reaction that's on all three fighters. But because it's a reaction, rules as written, it is optional. So prior to the December 2023 update, you could inspire one of your Storm Coven and then leave that fighter inspired until you saw fit to change who was inspired. But the update updates that. And it basically tacks a sentence before the reaction. So change the harness the ether ability to read as follows. After another friendly fighter's activation, one uninspired friendly fighter with this ability must use it. Reaction after another friendly fighter's activation. Inspire this fighter, then uninspire each other friendly fighter. So now you have to change who's inspired after you activate a fighter.
Yeah, so that's going to completely change kind of the way they play. And for me, the most significant change that this is going to bring up is the 5-wound fighter. So you could often leave him with 4 wounds because he still had that 5th wound and just let him sit there. Mm-hmm. But now,
Yep.
Yeah. What other impacts do we think that it'll have?
So it's an after the activation reaction. So that means that you're blocking any other after activation reactions that you might want to make. So the Force of Frost cloak, where you get an ice counter after your activation, you don't get to do that because you have to use the harness the ether reaction. And then myriad others, right? So your classic, push this fighter 1 hex after an attack action. Well, if the attack action is the last thing they do in the activation, then it's then the same window as this harness the ether reaction. So I think it complicates the warband, but it probably brings them in line. I would be curious to see how Amon's deck from World Champs would play now with the new rules compared to the rules that were in play, prior to this update.
Is this the first time that we've seen a reaction that must be taken? Because reactions have always been you can do it or you don't have to do it.
Yeah, I think so. I can't think of another reaction that you've had to take.
Do you think that it implies to any other, like, all reactions have to be taken? No.
Yeah, the wording is very specific.
The text is very clear, just saying, like, that you must use the reaction. So, that's good.
Yeah, and for their ping setup, like, because when they're inspired, they're level 2 wizards, so it definitely makes positioning and further future turn planning for the player very important. Do you think that this puts a fork in them? Like, are they done? Do we just not see Domatan come around anymore, or is Magic so powerful still that they?
I don't think they're done. I think it just requires a little more forethought now in how you interact with the fighters.
Okay.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
I was going to say, I mean, I haven't played it with the new update, but my gut tells me that this pulls them off of their current pedestal, right? It's going to pull them out of that whatever, the S tier.
Yeah, it's brought them down to reality a little bit for sure.
Yeah, I mean, they're still very good, right?
Yeah.
Like they have great stats. They have great rules. The fact that Sarpon can whack you for 3 damage if you're adjacent on 3 smash, like that's a big deal. The fact that Liana makes everybody flying and makes them all faster, like they still have all of the tools in their toolkit. They just have less control over when they get used. So like Trey said, I think it's just going to require a lot more forethought to use them effectively, which probably pulls them down into that kind of, it's still top tier, but not just so far above everything else.
I think the biggest thing that it does is it just prevents you stacking all these upgrades on a single fighter and then just not ever using the reaction again. I think that's the big thing that really brings it back down to reality. Like you can't just stack upgrades on a fighter, go do something, and then like be uninspired. Like typically when they're inspired, they're more resilient. They're just better all around. So
yeah,
you do something crazy, like go into enemy territory and drop a Abyssos Winter Storm.
Avalanche.
And I know I'm just
okay
being silly, but like now you have to understand like that was already a risky play, and now you have to uninspire that fighter if that was your inspired fighter that went to do it.
Yeah.
It also puts Domatan into danger zone too. Like if you get him vulnerable,
Yep.
and then he switches off, now he's dead.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and I mean, if you only have one fighter left, you don't have any uninspired fighters that have to take that reaction.
Right.
So, you know, you get down to your end game and you only have one fighter left. Well, you're still going to be able to make the most out of that one inspired fighter.
Yeah, I think it's a good change. I think it definitely adds a wrinkle to them that people will have to figure out, work around.
Yeah, I'm definitely interested. I think I'm more interested to play them now than I ever have been, because there does seem to be a little bit of a puzzle there. I also like it to me. It's for whatever reason, this change, out of all the changes we've ever seen with Inspire conditions or fighter keywords or actions, this one is the hardest one to grab to wrap my head around. Like it's like after another fighter's activation, I have to inspire another fighter. And for some reason, I'm going to have to play it to remember how it works. So it might just because my brain is fighting against everything I know. But while we were talking about them, we did mention Abyssos Avalanche a number of times. And I know we're kind of skipping around here to go to a universal gambit, but I do think that these are kind of connected, and because you mentioned ice counters as well. So this one has been changed really completely. Like it is added a condition to it. So change this card to read as follow. Gambit spell on a focus. If cast, remove 1 ice counter from this fighter, then deal 1 damage to each fighter in the same territory as the caster, and then place up to 1 available feature token in an empty hex in that territory. So this card now requires the tax of having an ice counter, which is is that fair? That's pretty steep, is it not? That's like an upgrade plus another way of getting it.
I mean, I think it works, and I think it's because Abyssos Avalanche can be so one-sided.
Mm-hmm.
And the biggest boogeyman, I think, that was talked about across the online community was the fact that you could throw a level 2 caster, activation 1, turn 1, into enemy territory, and throw 1 damage onto every fighter into that territory. And so, of course, the example is always Zarbag's Gits, but let's be honest, nobody's playing Zarbag's Gits. But you could, in theory, deal 9 damage with 1 gambit. Turn 1, activation 1. And now that's just not going to happen. It may not even happen in turn 1. Or if it does, it's going to happen late in turn 1. And you'll have a chance to mix things up, to move your fighters around, to avoid it. Because it's not trivial to get an ice counter, to get an upgrade on, to get an ice counter, and have the spell in hand. So,
and then to just burn the ice counter, which may be a victory condition for one of your cards too.
Right.
Where like it's a steep nerf. But I feel like it's needed for the power level of the card. Like if you want to go do that. I mean, I've been on the receiving end of it. It doesn't feel good to just get turn 1 Abyssothed, and now you're really behind the 8 ball with 3 to 5, 6 fighters.
Yeah, I mean, there's still a way to do it without having a glory, right? You play falling shards, right? And then you can get
you
a nice
counter. Go do it. But you have to tech into it now. And that leans more into the theme of the deck, which I like. I like that this is the solution that was come up with.
So do you think you're still taking the card?
I think it's a heavy decision now, but I think it should have always been a heavy decision.
Okay.
Instead of the auto take that it was for one focus.
Yeah.
Yes. All right, cool. Well, then moving on to another change that is near and dear to my heart and staying on the Wizards level. The Heffalump or Heffalum Pandemonium received some changes. One, we kind of talked about this before. I think it is a subtle change. The other one kind of caught me off guard, but we'll see what you guys think. So the change to Heffalum is to the changing sequence. So this is the sequence that happens before the turn. And it's kind of like their plot card. So you're going to change point 2. So the first point is I, as the Pandemonium player, will inspire a fighter. Step 2 always was, now we're going to pick somebody to stagger, one of my friendly changers to stagger. But the change is pick an opponent. The opponent chooses a surviving changer from your war band that has not been chosen yet this round. Stagger the chosen changer. Then the third step would come back to me to put somebody on guard. And then the fourth step which was I push somebody, is changed to pick an opponent. The opponent chooses a surviving changer from your warband that has not been chosen this round and push the changer 1 hex. So now in this 4-step process, I still get 2 that I control, but the other 2 are controlled by my opponent. It's pretty nifty. I love 4. I love the fact that my opponent is pushing one of my changers. I think it fixes a lot of the problems that we saw with some of the pairings. But what do you guys think about your opponent is now putting the stagger token down?
From a thematic and lore perspective of Tzeentch being a fickle god, your opponent getting to choose which fighters can have potentially negative things happen to them, I think is big. Just from a lore perspective, I think it's very powerful for your opponent to be able to just say, hey, you in the front, you're now staggered. And depending on it really changes your approach to how you do your change sequence now too, because you have to be very diligent with how you want those changers to be ordered. Because like your favorite thing to do is put Kindlefinger on guard, and now I'm going to put Kindlefinger on stagger, and stuff like that. Or if you don't, depending on whatever changer is selected first, like it really informs the opponent's decision and gives them more agency against Heffalum, who could play a lot of really passive stuff.
Yeah, it sets somebody up for a turn 1 charge that's fairly accurate to take out one of the changers. You could, and you aren't giving me an option then to put somebody on guard, like you have already pointed out, and then accompanied with a push of another changer. It means that there probably is going to be pretty good turn 1 interaction where, my build, the way I played them was inspire Spawn Maw and have Kindlefinger on guard out there in the center. And he's who I want you to interact with, because it's probably going to take 1 or 2, 3 interactions for you to get through him. And if I save any of those, now you've got somebody that I can interact with and kind of go about my plan. So it definitely changes that, where my plan may have to change significantly, or I might have to interact more. There's even further clarification. And for me, it feels like a clarification because this is the way I always played Flame Spooler, but it now has, with this, the token you distribute after you land a successful attack, warp splash ability reaction after the deal damage step of this attack action, give each fighter within 1 hex of the target 1 warping counter, and then add the following ability to the Flame Spooler's fighter card. Weird Flame at the start of a round, deal 1 damage to each fighter with 1 or more warping counters, then remove this fighter's warping counters. This ability must be used even if this fighter is out of action. So just like further clarification that if you cast this, you take a damage at the start of the round. I don't think that'll have as much significant change or any impact, really.
Yeah.
Unlike the change to the plot card, but it is a good clarification.
Yeah, I mean, the important clarification here is that the ability still works even if Flame Spooler is out of action.
Dead. Yep.
Because I think that was the debate.
Big.
I think that was the debate in the community. I had seen it before in one of the Discords was, do you still take damage from the warping counters if Flame Spooler is out of action? Because fighters that are out of action no longer interact with the game, yada, yada, yada.
Your corpse is still burning.
That's right.
I was going to say you're on fire, sir.
Yeah. And so this isn't the only warband that got that clarification of update. Skittershank's Clawpack, Creepkin Whisper, with his Barb's reaction to give a net counter, also continues to deal damage with the net counters after a move action, even if Kin Whisper is out of action. So
interesting.
Yep.
So we're now dealing damage to the out of action fighters.
No, you're dealing damage from the out of action fighters.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Their abilities still allow you to take damage.
Yes.
Yeah, you can still use their abilities even if they're out of action. Yep.
Well, cool. Another universal update to jump around even more was the objective card types. So on page 50 of our rulebook, there's this little sentence that for surge steps, right? So change the 4th and 5th sentences under surge objective cards and the surge step to read, when the condition of a surge objective card is met, the player may reveal that card. Once revealed, they will score that card in the next surge step. I think the keyword here is may.
May. That's kind of what it sounds like.
Not like must.
Yeah.
So I know locally we've gone back and forth on this a number of times that you must score a surge. So now to me it feels back to this may, where if I have a card and I may want to hold it later to score it, I can, and I like that.
Yeah, what was the one that was big for? The one where your leader has to make
it's for the Toxic Terrors deck.
Yeah. You get extra glory if
you get an extra glory if it's a successful attack in enemy territory. Your leader makes two attack actions if one is successful and is in enemy territory.
You get an extra glory.
2 glory. Yeah.
Nice.
So, like, a good example of this was when I was testing Ripa with that deck, and I would run in and try and kill a changer, and I would miss both attacks, but I made 2 attacks. Still had to score it.
Yep. But now you would probably make both attacks because that changer would be staggered.
Possibly. Not
Okay.
likely.
Most likely.
He says no.
Just as long as he's not playing Jerod.
Yeah.
No, it happened with you too, sir.
All right, so some changes also to Velmorn. Reaction, use this. So this is, I'm sorry, it is his deadly command reaction is now changed to read as follows. Use this in the first reaction step of each action phase and or after each of this fighter's activation. Give this fighter 1 command counter. While this fighter has 1 or more command counters, it is supporting each friendly Graveguard. Clear the counters at the end of the action phase. So this is a little update to the update that we just got out of the last FAQ, where you can now react and give him a command counter before the round starts, because the first surge step is before all the action, right? And now you can also give him a second command counter if he makes an activation, which should help with his deck, right? Because there are cards within their rival's deck that want you to expend command counters. My question to you both is, does this really matter? Is it enough?
I mean, it's not going to bring him to the top of the pack, but I do like that the MetaWatch team is keeping an eye on this, that the nudge that they made didn't have the impact that they thought that it was going to have. And so now they've just combined the original rule with the updated rule. So it just gives you more opportunities to get command counters, but frees you from still having to do, like, the first activation is, I put Velmorn on guard, or I move Velmorn onto an objective. Whatever. You may still do that, and now you're sitting on 2 command counters. But I think I don't know. We'll see. I thought that I had retired them, but
now you're gonna have to. I would have loved this if it would support Jedrin.
yeah. Who doesn't want Jedrin to be able to hit on 2 smash uninspired, and then 2 smash plus a single support inspired with rerolls against large fighters?
I love Jedrin. I want him to be the best he can be. All right. For me, the big one, because I've been playing them so much lately, is the Errata.
Oh my gosh.
And this change is
huge.
Each fighter, inspired and uninspired, change their aerobatic ability to read as follows.
Acrobatic.
Whatever. I'm reading. It's literally 15 feet away. So I'm just making it up as I read. When this fighter is dealt damage by an attack action, reduce damage by 1 to a minimum of 0 for each dodge in the defense roll. And I know for a fact this would have impacted a couple of games. It's not going to happen every game.
No.
But the fact that, now when I roll a dodge, it's going to have an effect.
Yep.
I love it. There's very few things that reduce to 0 in this game, and I love that this warband got one of them.
Yeah.
I read this and immediately went looking for the Nurgle to see if they did the same thing.
Yeah. And they did not. Yeah.
Which makes me sad.
Yeah. So with the upgrade that's reduced damage to a minimum of 1, and the gambit that is reduced damage by 2 to a minimum of 1, if you are on 2 defense dice, you could, in theory, soak a 5 damage attack. Which means that the gambit would still stay in play, because the gambit it persists until a fighter takes damage, right? the reduced by 2? Or is
Well,
it no?
it's until it's reduced
Reduced in this way.
way.
Yeah. So,
So
like,
if
if you get hit by a 3 and you use the upgrade to reduce 1, and then you roll 2 dodge to reduce to 0, you still haven't used that gambit.
Correct. Yeah, because you're reducing the dodges instead of the gambit reducing.
Yeah, and because all of these things happen at the same time, and it's your fighter that it's happening to, you get to choose the order in which to apply the effects.
Yes.
So, are you always going to soak a 5 damage attack with the upgrade and the gambit and 2 defense dice? No.
No.
But it's going to happen once, and it's going to be amazing.
Yeah, it just... They're already really squishy 2-wound fighters anyway, right?
Yeah.
So now that and that's probably why Nurgle didn't get it, is because they are beefier old warband that no one likes.
Yeah, but all of their objectives suck.
Yeah.
So I really think it's cool. I'm happy to see it out there. I'm happy to put it into practice. I know that on paper it's like, oh my goodness, this is gonna be awesome, but there's still 2-wound fighters, and at the end of the day, rebound only worked 33% of the time.
Yeah.
But when it worked, it worked.
What did we used to say? That rebound won you a third of the games that you would have lost?
Yeah.
Anyway?
Correct. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and then just to bounce back, well, before we bounce back, there are some other warband updates, and we've already gone through the Skittershank, right? So,
yep. But speaking of reducing damage to 0, Skritter had his rule updated.
He did.
Yeah. So, Skavix Plague Pack Skritter, the bestest rat, holding his little weird stone, warpstone.
It's Warpstone.
Change the worthless ability to read as follows: this fighter cannot be dealt damage by gambits. If this fighter would be taken out of action, remove it from the battlefield and clear all counters and persisting effects from this fighter is not taken out of action. So, the latter part that I sped through.
Yeah. No more free kill Skritter. Get off
but
the
you
board.
cannot ping Skritter to death. And gambits includes gambit spells. So, ploys are gambits and spells are gambits. So
he's also immune to Abyssath's Avalanche.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest, I don't like this one.
You don't know?
No. And this, like, I've played a lot of Plague Pack.
Yeah.
And it feels like when you get all these changes together, that this one, if the state of the game was the state of the game last week, and you introduced this change, okay, I get it. But now you've changed some of the most prolific, potent casters, and you change this, like, it feels like a buff to a warband that I thought was already doing well. So it feels. Listen, I'm gonna play it. I'm gonna love it, but I think it really, it wasn't needed because now, and the reason for this is like he wasn't giving up a glory anyway.
Yeah, that's true.
Like,
yeah, so if he was giving up a 3 glory, I could see it.
Yes, like if he was worth a glory, fine. But the fact that he's no glory and now I have to take an activation to deal with him, he doesn't feel so worthless.
That's true. And I was going to say something about Spinefin, but you can bring Spinefin back. So
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, Spinefin's a little different because he returns.
If you remember the Shoal token.
But I mean, whatever. Like, I love Plague Pack. This makes Skritter really good. Really good. Because now you're like, it's almost like the dog. Like the reason that Hexbane's, the dogs are so effective is the first dog, your opponent has to deal with the dogs. Yeah. And it doesn't give glory.
But he was always worth no glory.
So were the dogs.
Yeah. But the fact that you can't ping him to death, right? Like, why can't you not ping the dogs to death?
You can.
Right, but why? Like,
because he's only 1 wound and the dogs are 2.
Yeah, but you can ping him twice.
And then it's 2 resources.
Yeah, it's all a matter of resources. And the number of times that I had him killed from Tooth and Claw or something like that, where ploy, like you're standing next to him and he's dead. Like you go in and kill a fighter.
Or he made a move action, and after his activation, he takes the damage.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, he gains a ton of utility.
Yeah.
I don't know. He's really strong now. Like for all you players out there, he kind of makes that warband function because he has super high move. He's a befouler.
Yeah.
Like he's what makes them tick. That's why people would spend resources pinging him out of the game because it wasn't an action. Now you have to invest one of your 12 actions to try to take him out. And if he's inspired, he's on 2 dodge. Like, I don't know. I think it was just a little heavy handed and I understand why, because the ping meta is what the ping meta was. I don't think that the ping meta was as bad in Nemesis than it was in Championship, but whatever, I'll take it. Like, they will continue to see the board, and they're going to be even better now with this. Way better.
Yeah.
Okay. So we talked about Claw Pack.
Yeah. So we can just rip through. There's 3 other warbands that got changes that don't really impact anything because I think people were, well, they kind of do. Anyway, so Exile Dead.
They don't know. Well,
Yeah. So you can take super actions with the Dance Macabre if the super action is a scything attack action. So before the update with the Death Gorge rulebook, it said that super actions were not actions. So it was up in the air as to whether you could take a scything attack action as your attack action. Now it's clear that you can with the Dance Dynamic ability. And then the one that I think probably needed the clarification is that with the Puppeteer ability, Markov's Puppeteer ability, this fighter and a friendly Regulus can each make 1 action or super action other than this action. So now for sure, because it wasn't clear with the Death Gorge rulebook whether Regulus could charge out of the Puppeteer action, but now he can. Kagra's Ravagers, the Despoil ability on Dour Kragan and Razak Godblessed. You desecrate the objective immediately after the final power step of the round, which allows you to get desecration tokens on before the final surge step of a round, which means that you can inspire going into the end phase. And then Varklav's action, his push action, it says choose 1 or more friendly chain rasps because they changed it before to you had to push towards the nearest enemy fighter. So you still have to push 1, but you don't have to push all anymore. Again, like, does this mean that Thorns of the Briar Queen are going to suddenly pop up to the top of the playing field? I don't think so. But it is kind of cool to see them going back and updating older warbands to bring them more in line with the current state of the game.
Yeah, and it's been a long time since we had kind of updates to older warbands. I think the Kagras one is probably the one that intrigues me the most, right? That they're inspiring kind of when the 2 desecration tokens are on the battlefield. Excuse me, but the one that I have the most questions about are the Exile Dead.
Okay, fire away, sir.
So I charge with the big armed guy. What the heck is his name?
Coil.
You charge with Coil.
Check. Okay. And then I dance my dance.
Yep.
Can I now make a scything attack?
Mm-hmm.
You can, because you're not activating him.
Okay.
So it says a fighter with a charge token. When you activate a fighter with a charge token, you cannot take super actions. You are not activating coil when you do the dance dynamic.
Okay.
So you could charge coil in and then in a later turn do
Whirly
the dance
gig.
dynamic and scythe with him uninspired or whatever.
So I think that there's a lot of things to explore with Exile Dead because of the general rule changes.
Yeah. Also, masks.
Well, I was getting there. So now what you're saying is that I can put a mask onto Regulus,
Yep.
and his action can be a mask action.
It could be, yep. So you put that bandana eye on him, and he can pew pew laser beams with Vitrix's eye till his undead heart's content.
To his undead heart's content.
Yep.
What other actions are out there?
I mean, so you've got all of the actions on and actually that might be, I think that's the play, right? So a lot of the actions, there's the action that you get full rerolls, right? On one of the masks. There's the action that's +1 damage on one of the masks. So you could puppeteer with Regulus and Markov in the back.
There's an action to gain an ice counter in the Frost deck.
Yeah. I don't know what yeah. So you could do that with Markov and then throw him into the mix to cast Abasoth's Abasoth's Avalanche. But
the Frostbitten Veil is the one that intrigues me probably the most, right? Is because, like, let's say it's mid game, it's turn 2. I put it on him. I move Markov wherever Markov needs to go. I do this, and now he's re-rolling everything for the entire round, even if he's rezzed.
Yep.
Right? So I like that one. And then there's +1 damage to this fighter's range 1, range 2 attack actions other than scything until the end of the round.
Yeah. That's pretty good.
It just gives you more efficiency out of the masks. So
yeah.
And they're not attack action upgrades, so
they're not. Nope.
Cool.
So the zombies can wear them.
Zombies for the win. Just think there's a lot of new play that's been kind of pumped into the Exile Dead, Kagras. The Thorns, I'm sure there's some reason out there that had to be added, but
I think it just brings them more in line, right? Like, it doesn't force you to push all of them, right? So, does that open up paths of prophecy for them? So, like, you can put Chain Rasps on objectives, and then you can Varklov push, the Everhanged.
Yeah, I get. My problem is they've already had their time in the sun. Like, Thorns dominated this game so many years ago.
Oh yeah.
Like, yeah. I'd be willing for them to just not be good. So, at all. Kagras and Exile Dead, I don't think have ever really gotten their fair shake. So
that's
And then, so those are all the Warband ones, right?
I think. Yeah, and then I think the only other thing that we haven't talked about is the updates to the Breakneck Slaughter.
Correct.
Upgrades. So, Headlong Sprinter, Living Hurricane, and Moving Mark. You only give momentum counters after a move action in an activation. And only after the first move in an activation step. So, if you're making moves outside of, like, in the power step, championship, I guess, where you mix Void Cursed and... No, you can't do that because they both have plot cards. I don't know. There are gambits out there that let you make move actions during the power step. You're not going to gain momentum counters during the power step for making move actions with these upgrades.
Okay. It's just a nice clarification.
Yeah. And you won't get extra ones if you're if you're, I don't know, playing them with Ducunnan crew and, I don't know, doing spirals around Manok with fighters with these upgrades on, right? You'll get 2 momentum counters or 1 momentum counter or whatever in the activation, regardless of the number of move actions that you make with them.
Yeah, cool. So
Cool.
moving on to the commentary.
Yeah, I reckon so.
You
Here we
reckon
are,
so? The
42 minutes later.
document number 2, and we can just kind of touch the high points here. So for the razors, one that I actually had questions of the Hammer Tide ability. Do blocked hexes prevent a friendly Hammer Tide ability from affecting enemy fighters? No.
No.
I always assumed you had to have line of sight, but
Yeah.
no, you don't. Just keeps
It's
going.
not a choose, right?
It's not, but
Yeah. I mean,
from the war gamer in me, like
yeah.
this mystical water hammer tide is going through a pillar of ice. Okay,
I mean,
cool.
it's the Aether Sea, so it is both here and not here at the same time.
Hammer smash ice.
Hammer smash ice, but not smash it so that it is not there anymore.
That's correct.
And then I think the other ones to me were just kind of like clarifications. I mean, you guys jump in here if you feel differently. But the other one for me was the ruling on the Thricefold Discord, where you could, I'm trying to find it now so I can, but it's one of their cards where you have a choice, and if no one has a move or a stagger token, you can still select this. Yeah, so well-earned rest. I play this card. Can my opponent pick the second option if no fighter has a move and or charge token? And the answer is yes. And that one to me just kind of was odd because of the way other rulings were made in the past, where it had to be able to be completed, and the fact that I'm not removing any tokens was a little strange. Like it's fine. It definitely decreases the value of that card.
Yeah. It does say up to. So
I get it. It's fine. Like I'm not going to argue like the FAQ. It's disappointing because that card is now not as desirable.
Right.
Because the other option is your move up to 2 move and or start stagger tokens from surviving fighters, or you give a fighter in the player's warband that has no tokens a charge token.
Right.
That feels really good to give somebody a charge token, but
yeah,
we probably won't see that. And then Jerod, you have some notes about pushes.
Yeah, so I know we missed this in our review of the new season rulebook. But in the rulebook, I gotta find it now because I forget what page it's on. When it says pushes, it very clearly states that a fighter cannot end a push in the same hex that they started in. So in previous seasons, you could push up to X number of hexes, and that number of hexes could have been 0 because there was no verbiage in the rulebook that a push had to end in a different hex than it started. But that ruling exists now. So for everybody playing push cards that are push up to, you do not have the choice to push 0 hexes anymore.
Yeah, which is further clarified in the designer's commentary, right? So to resolve certain abilities, my opponent or I are required to push, choose, or pick up to a certain value of things, such as a fighter, cards, or number of hexes. When can that be 0? And the answer is when required by the card to do something up to value, the value could be 0 unless you are to push the fighter.
Yeah.
And it is page 31, as Jerod just referenced. So that is a significant update, or at least a clarification for us that I've probably been playing Ron for 5.5 years.
I would be curious to actually look that up to see if that is the case in other rule books.
Maybe. I don't recall.
Maybe. That would be really funny. There is a clarification in one of the designer's commentary about scatter, and scatter is allowed to end in the same hex that it started in. Because I believe the way that works is that a scatter is a series of 1 hex pushes. And so each push is treated differently. So it starts in a separate hex. So you could push out of a hex and then push back into it with a scatter.
That's interesting, but I mean, I think that's the way that we've always interpreted it, but I'm glad that it's clarified, right?
Right.
So,
yep.
And then the other big one, salvage. Can I salvage a power card in any power step?
Yes.
I love when they put like little ones in there that just like creeped up through months of play where people ask the question and we all know what should be, but
yeah, but it's nice to have it defined. Yeah.
Yes.
Is objective 5 synonymous with objective token with a value of 5? Yes.
Okay. Is there anything in here, anything else that we want to go over? There is definitely some great clarification for Breakneck Slaughter plot card and how momentum works.
Yeah. You're resolving the impetus ability once, no matter how many fighters you end up pushing around, because they have momentum counters.
The ability,
so that clears up that
Once.
objective. It clears up the objective. It's going to take three action steps, 3 activation steps to resolve it 3 times.
Awesome. So without going into, we're not going to go into the restricted or unrestricted cards. There were cards that came off, cards that went on. It is great to see the support for the championship format of the game continue. That is not the way that we choose to play the game. And Tracy, you showed me a deck the other day and I just threw up a little in my mouth and went on with my life. But
my brain exploded. I was like, I'm just going to put this away.
Yeah. Well, we were talking about it the other night. I don't think that I've built a championship deck since Nova of 2022.
2022, yes.
When I took Headcrack as Mad Mob to Nova.
Yeah, and even before that, locally, we weren't playing championship. We were playing, what was it, Rivals Plus?
What we called it, Rivals Plus, yeah.
So to be fully into championship,
2021, the last time that I made a championship deck.
That's awesome.
So,
again, I'm with you. I'm glad it's getting support, right? Because there's a
healthy group of people that still want to play that format, and I'm very happy for those folks that they're getting.
Yeah, and trust me, now that I found this new kind of love. So for our listeners, I was playing the Heffalumps. I love Heffalump. It fits my playstyle perfectly. But after Nova, I kind of went into this gray zone of what do I want to play? Is the game there? I don't know. It was just kind of been there, done that, right? I've been playing this game for a long time and many, many times. And then I kind of got back to my roots and I played these kind of off meta, off power level war bands like Airnai and Loon Court. And that's really what I want to focus on. But there are some times when I'm playing Errata, it's like, oh, if I just had access to one or two different style of cards,
Yeah.
I could make them play completely how I want them to play, which is I'm going to sit here and wait for you to come to me. But I don't know. My dad brain.
Jason's default play style. Just wait for everybody, then punch you in the face.
Yeah, take 3 activations to draw power cards, and then do something redonkulous with your 4th activation in the first action phase.
So for you guys, big takeaways from the update, things that you're looking forward to.
Skritter.
Nice.
I'm just kidding. No, I think the Skritter change is big, like we've already discussed. I think what's nice is that they're not as reserved in some of their changes that they're making with some of these. And I think the cool thing is that they know that they can always just dial it back. They can always just the next FAQ, they can tweak it again. And I like seeing that a little bit of that bravery and not being scared of just straight up changing like an inspire condition or changing how a fighter interacts with cards. Like, I think that that's great. It definitely helps warbands that are lacking and brings warbands that are clearly head and shoulders above a little bit more down to earth. So overall, I think that the changes are nice. I'm sure that there's folks that are not happy with them because they've been playing with all their toys in a certain way, and now they can't play with those toys in the same way again. But then there's other people who are now excited to try new things, right? So
there are a lot of changes, and like you've pointed out, like there's a lot of changes to actual cards.
Yeah.
Like update writing, this is what that card reads. Historically, they have not done again, to my knowledge, this many changes to the actual writing of cards since we've been playing. Nemesis has been so popular for us because it's super easy to get people into, because you play Rivals and then they just graduate into Nemesis and it's a much more controlled environment. But now we have to say, oh, I know that your card says this, but it really means this. I know. And these are like really recent relevant cards.
Yeah.
How do we think that this type of update impacts our new players?
I think it means that we have to print out the FAQ. We have to print out the errata and the commentary, and we have to bring it with us to game night.
That aligns with what I was going to say, which is it now falls to the players who are veteran players to help those people to understand better how their warband plays and why those changes were made. I think it really, the responsibility falls on the shoulders of people who are teaching this game to really point those things out. Because newer players to this game, they might be card players or they might be, board gamers that have come over to this game and they may not be familiar with this style of update. So if you're a local community leader, just make sure that your players know, like, hey, this thing changed. And if push comes to shove, just print the thing out and put it on the back of a piece of paper and sit it next to your, literally print the thing that's relevant to your warband and either slide it in the sleeve. I know Underworlds DB sometimes will update card text on images and stuff. So just be okay with somebody's got a paper copy of their fighter card or whatever. I think that there's just a lot of things that.
So it would be an excellent opportunity for Games Workshop to do some print on demand, but I don't know that will ever happen for them.
Probably not. I'm not going to hold my breath, but who knows? I also think you have to pick and choose kind of like when you're going to give that new player all of this.
Yes.
Right? So if Jody's coming to our game night tomorrow, I'm like, we're just playing the way the card's printed.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Right. Unless maybe there's a Kagra Ravengers like the Inspire. Like, oh, by the way, you inspire when there's 2 desecration tokens, right? Just to make it better for them. But the little, like the changes to break, knock, slaughter, we're just gonna play it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
well, good. So I guess the big question here now is, so we have the new FAQ, we have the new erratas, we got the new designer commentary. Domatan is now fallen the way of Thorns of the Briar Queen. Heffalum, you control my warband more than I do. Velmorn is now an S tier warband. What is your prediction for top warband? Jerod, we'll have you go first. What is your pick for top tier warband?
So top tier, we're talking top tier warband.
Mm-hmm. Like
if you're playing competitively, if you're going to LVO, what are you looking out for?
Yes.
So I have 2.
No, you get to pick one, and then Trace can go just one.
Gosh.
Pick one, sir.
Well, there are 3 people on this podcast. If you pick 2, we got nothing else to say.
That's not okay. Fair enough. So, I think you need to keep an eye out for Headcracker.
Yeah,
I think they've got good in-faction cards. They're sturdy fighters. I mean that they're well written. They've got the bonus glory from primacy.
And they've just slinked through all these years with no
changes, no nerfs, no. I mean, if Headcracker goes down, right, then nobody else is inspiring. So they're not invincible. But I think I would be on the lookout for Headcracker. If you're going to LVO, you're going to play something competitive. I would either be thinking about playing Headcracker or at least be familiar with how to take them down.
Okay, Trace, you think Headcracker is the one, or you got somebody else?
I don't know if this is off base or not, but I think that Thricefold have a decent chance of being pretty stout now, especially with the changes to Domatan, the changes to FLM. I think that I would be surprised if you didn't see similar style play from them.
Well, we all know I like Thricefold, so that's fine by me. You think they're going to be as much as a problem? Because let me back up a little bit. I do think that Headcracker, from an aggro standpoint, because they can score so much end game, may end up by being a problem. Do you think that Thricefold is going to be a problem, or they're just going to be a little bit better than everybody else?
I think Thricefold have an ability to play a really, really strong flex game. Like, just chill and wait for you, and then you get smashed. Or they can play aggressive and come in and get an ice counter and then Abyssos avalanche you. Like, there's just different things that they can do. I think that, especially with Force of Frost, I think that they have a lot of tools in the toolbox to do some pretty gross stuff. Plus with the temptations and being able to a perfect example is the Perfect Blade, right? You've got a fighter, like say that you're playing against Domatan and he's got all these upgrades on a fighter and you're like, here, have this upgrade. All those other upgrades are gone. Like, until, they don't count as being a thing until that they take that action to remove it. And that's debilitating to a warband. I just think that there's a lot of tools in that toolbox that have not been explored because of the prevalence of Domatan and FLM.
Okay. Jerod, was that your 2?
No, those were going to be my 2. Yep.
Okay. I don't think either of you are wrong. I think Thricefold kind of rises to the top. The only reason that I'm worried about Headcracker is because it's an older warband. Like, yeah, I am definitely going to play them. I definitely going to think that they're fun. I think that the hard counter to Headcracker is just be better at aggro. I do think that Gnarl Spirit Pact does that.
Yeah.
I don't think that they have the long game scoring like Headcracker has, but if you get good dice rolls, you can take the warband out. I am excited for the changes to the casting and the ping to get some bigger war bands back into play. Like,
Yeah.
I really want to see someone. I'm not going to do, like, I've played Exile Dead. They're really, really fun. I don't think I really want to run them with masks. But I'd love to see Exile Dead be played more. I'd love to see Loon Court, which will be where I'm going to put some time into. Do I think they're going to rise to the top? No. I just want them to be relevant more and more. I think that Headman's Curse is one that's going to see a lot more play with this update.
Yeah.
I think they were really worried about that, the ping, because they like to be kind of together and support each other. So the ping really scared them. So I think that they're gonna come out and see maybe a little more playing at LVO. But we have enough war bands; it could be anyone. But I think we're in a really, really, really good state. And don't sleep on Hexbanes, who have always held around in love when they die. So
It's true.
All right. Any other comments about the update to Underworlds? I guess the final question to end the segment.
The third final question.
The third final question.
We're just playing the game, Jerod. That's all we're doing.
Just playing to see how long we can go before I get to kill the segment. Is the game in a better state today because of this FAQ?
Yes.
Sure.
I think so. Thank you, GW, for updating the game that we love. Looking forward to getting all these changes on the table. And with that, we'll finally take a break and be back in a moment.
And we're back, and we are going to wrap up the 2023 season of the Battle Mallet podcast. In this segment, we'll talk about our favorite moments of the year. I mean, other people have done it, but we can run through all of the Underworlds releases and maybe pick our favorite from the year. But just kind of do a really long, what have you been up to lately segment here. So I think, we're largely an Underworlds podcast, so we'll start there. 2023, let's run through the releases. March of 2023, we saw Grisel's Errata, which just got that major update, and Beastbound Assault, which, as I was writing this up, like, do you think people are sleeping on Beastbound Assault? Or is it just like a fine deck and it's just not going to be the one that like makes top 8 at a tournament?
I don't know. I think it more than a lot of other warband or a lot of other rivals decks really depends on what you're playing it with. And just a lot of those warbands are not in favor.
Fair enough.
Right now.
Yeah. And with the update, they may be in favor soon, right?
Sure.
Because it likes the stacking upgrades on a single fighter, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's a playstyle it likes. It likes beasts. It likes lackeys, minions.
Yeah.
And we haven't seen the big boys in a while. Like, when was last time somebody busted out a Rothgorn or the Exile Dead? And I mean, because I've played it with Exile Dead, right? Like,
yeah. I played it so. In 2023 with
Black Powder.
Assault.
Yeah, let's not talk. I have so high hopes for Black Powder, and it just doesn't play the way I want it to play. So we've retired.
All right. Fair enough. Moving on. All right. So that was March. A short 2 months later in May, we got Weird Hollow. So that was a big drop. 2 new warbands, 2 new Rivals decks. Domatan, Ephelum, Seismic Shock, Toxic Terrors. Probably the biggest shakeup to the game.
Strongest warbands that have been released in a long time.
Yeah. A great box.
One of the strongest Rivals decks that's been released in a long time.
And then I think I presume you're talking about Seismic Shock.
Yes.
Yeah, but I think Toxic Terrors is another one.
Toxic's has got tools. It's got tools
Yeah.
in it. You just have to have, again, it's warband dependent.
Yeah.
And it's very leader dependent. So if you have a squishy leader,
right,
you know, whatever. I've played it. I had a lot of fun playing it with Molog, surprisingly.
Nice.
It was fun playing it with that.
The Air and I is what I play that with. And I think that elves in general, like all the elf factions, like Toxic Terrors, fast aggro, kind of.
Yeah.
I think if you're not really trying to be hyper competitive and are just looking for something kind of cool to play that really has some jank and messes with your opponent, I think Thrice Fold with Toxic is interesting. Because you're just basically saying, hey, you can't do any actions while you have this thing. You can't activate this fighter, or there's just a lot of manipulation of the opponent's warband with those two decks. So I would be interested to see the scoring. The scoring on that would be difficult because, again, it's very leader centric. But
I think it comes down to the same thing we're talking about, Beastbound Assault. Like there are keywords in Toxic Terrors, like poison, that you need the poison to trigger a lot of things. So therefore, when you're building, it narrows the scope of warbands that you can use, because do they have access to poison? Do they not? If they don't, then you got to take more of their rivals, or the Universal Rivals deck. So like it's always going to be there. I don't think that's going to be mass appeal on a lot of warbands like we see some of these other decks.
Unless you have some warband that gets released that has like a lot of poison upgrades just inherently in their deck or whatever.
That would do it.
Yeah.
Cool.
Scavix Place Pack was the opportunity to make that happen.
Yeah, it didn't work. It didn't work that way.
But that didn't happen. So, all right. So a month later in June, we get Headsman's Curse and Void Curse Thrall. So if you listen to the previous segment, I think Jason thinks people have been sleeping on Headsman's Curse. And Void Curse Thralls was this deck that I think it took people a couple of months to really figure out and really get the most mileage out of. But it's seen a lot of play, and it's done some work.
I think when it first came out, folks thought that the defense characteristic was a bigger deal than it really is. The changing of that defensive characteristic. But I think the thing that really started selling people was not being able to be driven back and stuff like that. Like the positioning play, which we talk about all the time, really comes to light when you can't do those things. And then when you have all this extra movement tech and being able to run circles around and all that fun stuff, it's an interesting deck. I like it a lot. It's very good.
Cool. All right, and then in August we got Scavix Plague Pack and the Paths of Prophecy. So Scavix Plague Pack, I think they're solid warband, upper tier.
It's my favorite warband release of the year.
Yeah, well, and it's one of the best paint jobs you've done on a warband too. So it did win you best painted. No, Ephelon won you best painted at Nova.
Just driving that dagger deeper.
Yeah, he still won it. And then Paths of Prophecy. So another deck that we haven't seen a lot of play locally. I think maybe people are trying to unpack it. Maybe there's not a good warband. The ping meta kind of dissuaded people from all of the hold stuff. All of the
played it with
required
Grimwatch.
Fighters.
It's fun.
Yeah.
It's fun with Grimwatch.
I think it's more fun just to roll smashes and crits and hit people.
Yeah.
I think Paths of Prophecy, like, it's the fact that almost every Universal Rivals deck has a cap for glory, right? Like, I know that I think this one's like 1 or 2 higher, but hold objective historically, when you played hold objective, your scores, you were gonna bring in 20, 21, 22 glory, in your building of a deck, because you knew some of them weren't going to hit. and now you're kind of limited on that glory cap. So it's harder. Now I am also like I have a Paths of Prophecy build that I'm working on just to do it because I do love hold objective play. Is it going to work? Who knows? But we're going to try it.
Yeah. And then in October we saw Death Gorge released, or pre-ordered in October, released in November. And that brought around Cyreni's Razors, the Tithe of Soul Discord, Force of Frost, which was probably the most popular deck to come out. The fact that it was not plot locked was
big.
Made a lot of championship players really happy. And then Breakneck Slaughter, which again, I think it has teeth. I think it just hasn't been used because it didn't pair with the most popular or what was perceived as the most powerful warbands at the time. So, and outside of the major releases, we also had the new 2023 starter box, which contained updated Farstriders and updated Sepulchral Guard, neither of which I've seen a lot out and about, although Brian locally is
Brian's
playing the new
playing
guard
them a lot. Locally.
Yeah. He's trying to wrap his head around them.
Yeah. He's had some success.
Yeah.
He's had some success
It's been
with it.
good. And then the Barnes & Noble box, which is like the
Sepulchral Guard.
The first hit is free. It's a $35 box. You get 2 warbands, dice, boards, everything that you need to play. It makes an excellent gift. And you get the new Sepulchral Guard and then Iron Souls Condemners with they have not been updated in the same way that Farstriders and Sepulchral Guard were, but a couple of the cards I think have been rewritten to be in line with the grammar for the current rule set. And then all of the artwork and the card backs have been updated so that they match what's available now. But that pretty much covers it for 2023 releases. Daggok and Masks were announced but are not yet available. They will be available in a couple of weeks. But yeah, that's it for Underworlds releases. Jason, what was your favorite release?
Jeez, I don't know. I mean, I think I'm gonna have to go with actual Weird Hollow and Heffalum.
Yeah,
like it was the miniatures like grabbed me instantly. It was very nice to have a chaos like demon style warband, and more importantly, for those that don't know, I played a lot of Eyes of the Nine back in the day because they were the warband that no one wanted to play because they were terrible. So I played a lot of them. And it was really nice to get this similar play style with a warband that really functioned. And then, Trace killed the paint job, which made me want to play them even more. I really, really enjoyed that warband. It was probably, I don't want to say it's my favorite warband of the entire scope of Underworlds, but it was really nice to have a couple months where I focused just on one.
Yeah. Yeah. What about you, Trace?
From a model perspective, I think Scabex is my favorite.
Yeah.
I took them to Nova. I painted them pretty well, I feel like. And then next is probably it's probably Thricefold Discord, I think, is the next one that really, I thought the models were great. They looked great. Had a ton of fun painting those as well. And I think that I'm sure that there's lots of folks playing them, but I feel like that they're just not being talked about as much.
Yeah.
So I think they're not going to be a sleeper pick anymore, I think, but I think that they were a sleeper pick before. So yeah, those two. Those would be my favorites for the year.
What nailed it for you?
Yeah, so I'm a sucker for Stormcast. So Domatan, and I painted them the same way that I painted all of my Stormcast. So they're Anvils of the Elden Hammer. I put the death masks on all of them.
They look good.
So, like actual 2023 releases, it's that, but Dagox, Stab Lads, I mean, it's taking me back to my roots, right? I got 4 Oryx. They're on one block. Plus, Trace did a bang-up job painting them with that albino paint scheme, inspired by Jason's creative vision.
And thanks GW for the early release copy. So
we actually have them in hand. So for us, it's 2023, but for the greater world, it will be 2024 release. And I've had fun, playing them with you guys. Getting them on the table and theory crafting with them so that we could put our content together. So that covers Underworlds, unless you guys have any other thoughts about Underworlds for 2023.
Nope. I think the only thing to note is that the major shift in tournament play here in the US going to the Nemesis format.
Yeah.
And the library really taking off this year from the support of our community. So those two things, I think from an Underworld standpoint, it's really nice to have that Nemesis format be what we enjoy playing and supported at a lot of the major tournaments. And then kind of like what we're about here is that format. So,
yeah, we're up to 169 legal decks on the Nemesis library. So that we have a slew of Illusory Might decks that are obviously no longer legal for organized Nemesis play. And a large chunk of those are community decks, whether they're decks from tournament winners or decks that the community themselves have submitted. So again, thanks to everybody that submitted one, and for supporting the library there.
It's been fun to see folks in our Discord just drop a link in and be like, "Hey, can we add this to the Nemesis library?" And we're like, "Absolutely!" Like it's
just and emails. We've gotten emails.
Yep.
So that's been cool. So, I mean, I think that transitions us to 2023 for the Battle Mallet podcast. And so I'm going to take the first accomplishment. We talked about it. We basically made a whole episode out of it. I finally beat Jason in a tournament in the very beginning of the year, and I'm still riding that high. I don't feel like I live in Jason's pocket anymore, which is just such a nice feeling.
And it's because of you that I probably will never have a red trophy. So
it's probably true. Yeah.
What kind of friend?
It's okay, Jerod. I still live in your pocket. It's fine.
Right? Yeah. What kind of friend would I have been to just continue to beat you down for years?
I don't know.
Maybe I let you win.
Yeah, sure.
The kind of friend that Jerod is to me. That's exactly.
Yeah, you definitely rolled 5 successes on an attack from Kira, but no crits, and I just single dice crit deft it. You did that on purpose.
Well, I wasn't rolling with Kira. I was playing Hexmane. You had Kira.
Oh, yeah. On to Kira.
Yes.
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, that'll lead to my accomplishment for Battle Mallet for this year. The Nova experience was something like this year. I don't know how next year will trump the experience I had this year. I really, really enjoyed Nova. And then just to kind of cap it off with playing in the Grand Clash and coming in second. Again, I don't know how I'll top that because I'll probably never win a major. But did submarine my way into second, and I'll take it. And it was a great way to end this year's Nova that I just loved.
Yeah. Yep. And that at the same event, Trace's beautifully painted Ephelum that he referenced earlier.
Those are Jason's models. Jason won Best Painted at Nova. I am the ghost painter of Jason Murray. So, no, that was a lot of fun. There was some really, really beautifully painted warbands there. Yeah. And it felt really good to to come on with that, even though, you know, Underworlds is a small game. You know, it's still fun to claim that. So,
Yeah.
Congratulations, Jason, on your victory of painting that warband so well.
I spent many hours doing it.
Yeah. Many hours in the car driving to drop it off and pick it up and all those things.
I mean, that's a long ride.
It is. He probably spent as much time driving as you did painting.
That's probably true. If you include all the driving for work on the way in or out.
Yeah.
to get them,
All
right?
the trips that he took.
Yeah.
In between. So, and then coming out of Nova, I mean, just to kind of cap off the year for us, you know, we went through the gauntlet and we were able to become reviewers for GW Underworlds products, and that's a huge honor. It's not an honor that we take lightly, because it's really cool to be able to create content, to get it out early, to have it be meaningful for our tens of listeners. But again, as always, and we will continue to say thank you to Games Workshop just for the opportunity to have the material in our hands, to see Chase paint it super well, and be able to create content around it.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's definitely been fun, and it's great to see your painting skills apply to a lot of that stuff that's out there day one. I think that is a huge accomplishment for the podcast and really for you. So very happy for you and proud of that moment for us.
Yeah. And in addition to that, I also was asked to be a community contributor for some of the products for GW as well. So if you guys see things pop up on my my Instagram or my Twitter, those things are not necessarily tied. They're tied to us, but they're not necessarily for our official product review. So those are things that I've been asked to paint as a community contributor. So those are fun too.
Yeah. And if you're not following Trace on X and or Instagram, you should do that. It's Al Capone. I could spell it, but we'll put a link in the show notes. And we tag him in all of our social posts for the stuff that he paints for the podcast too. So you should definitely follow him. And then the last thing, and I really have to give kudos to the two of you. We did account the last Underworlds meetup, and we have gotten our Underworlds community in the Raleigh-Durham area, I would say almost even above pre-pandemic numbers when it comes to regular players. And that is due in 90% part effort due to y'all's efforts, yours, Jason and Trace, just organizing things, being at the store on our regular Monday night meetups, especially this year as my work travel blew up. And my family life just got busy, and it meant that I couldn't make those Mondays. The two of you taking the lead, holding down the fort, being with people, running intro games. It's meant a lot to me to see the community grow, and I think I can speak for the community and say that like it means a lot to them too, that there is a regular place to play Underworlds now, in the Raleigh-Durham area. So just thanks, guys.
Yeah.
No, thank you. Thank the community. And out of all the things that we've talked about, all the different changes, all the games, all the products that have come out, that is probably still, the biggest accomplishment for us, for all of us. And it's not just Underworlds related. Like, I really think that our community has grown now that we are a group of gamers that get together on a weekly basis and just play games, mostly Underworlds, but there's a lot of other stuff in there too. And that all took place this calendar year.
Yeah.
And it really means that we have more friends now. So, and I don't use that friend word lightly. So those of you that are listening locally, it is great to hang out with each of you every week, every other week. know that there are a number of players here in Raleigh that we truly enjoy having games with, no matter if it's Underworlds or something else. So thank you for everyone coming out and playing.
And I'm going to add one more thing, and that is a giant thank you to the techno wizard that is Jerod Johnson, because Jared's the one who is always clickety clacking or taking notes or doing whatever. This podcast would not happen if it was not for Jerod. So giant thank you to you. There's been a couple times I've been like, I can help. And you're just like, no, I'm good. Like, I'm good. I got it.
He's got to push all the buttons.
And I've known that about him for years, but in this particular case, I just want to say thank you for wanting to push all the buttons all the time. So
yeah. You're welcome.
Yeah.
It's fun for me.
And yeah. And I can tell. And I think you pour a lot of passion into it. You definitely have done a great job with building the Nemesis library and doing that stuff. You showed me how to update the library document one time, and I was like, we'll do it. I'll have you help me one time before we do it.
Yeah.
It looks a lot scarier than it is, but I was just like, my brain can't handle this today. Yeah. So thank you. Thank you to you both. And Jason, thank you for driving us, because without you driving us, I don't think.
So I'm the nagger. Sweet.
I didn't say that.
Yep.
No.
Thank you for driving us. If you're the person who comes up with great ideas, so yeah, thank you to both of you.
Sweet. Way to close out 2023. Well, wait. Do we want to talk about what we did individually?
I think we should.
I think we should.
It's our podcast. We can do whatever we want.
That's fair.
I'm going to go first so that I can get it out of the way, and then you guys can talk. So it's just going to be a quick rundown. I'll probably pick out kind of my favorites, but for anybody that knows me, the favorites are probably going to be pretty obvious. So 2023, everything that I painted 3 Sentinels so this will be Marvel Crisis Protocol. So I guess tune out for like 2 minutes.
Seconds.
You don't want to hear about it. So I painted the Sentinel Prime and then the 2 little Sentinels. They're not so little. Painted Pyro and Blob. Painted Psylocke. Painted Emma Frost. And I thought that I was pretty much done. But then my children showed interest in MCP, and they're both huge Spider-Man, Ghost Spider fans. So I picked up some stuff. So I painted Agent Venom, Ghost Spider, and Black Cat. And then there was a time where we thought we were maybe going to play Warhammer 40K. And then we didn't. And I think that's mostly my fault because I just got my teeth kicked in and was not having fun. But anyway, I painted some Yannari Guardians and a Yannari Farseer. And so they're sitting on the shelf now. And then I have the rest of that Combat Patrol assembled and partially primed, but not painted. So that's fun. On the Underworlds side, it was kind of a slow year for me painting-wise. I only got Domatan, Sireni, and Thricefold painted. But I'm pretty happy with those paint jobs. And I kind of have a soft goal to keep up from now on. And Trace helped out a ton by painting up Dagox for me. So we'll see that. Another big thing for me for 2023 is in 4.5 years at that point of playing Warhammer Underworlds and playing in tournaments locally and somewhat abroad. I finally won glass. So that's exciting. And now I have 2 pieces of glass. So Jason won't ever get any red glass. I did take 8th place at Nova with the Sons of Elmorn. I had a soft goal of just being the highest placed Velmorn player at Nova. And that wasn't a by default. There was one other Velmorn player. So I did have one other person to be better than. But I was pleasantly surprised with my 8th place finish. And then the other thing that I've done is just played more Marvel Crisis Protocol with my kids. And so Kyle, the 9-year-old, is kind of starting to wrap his head around it. And just today we were on our way to swim practice and I was listening to Fury's Finest, and I have not listened to them for a long time. I just picked them up relatively recently. So I've kind of gone back, and I'm just curious. One of the things that I love is like they do the lore segment for all of the characters.
That's
So I
my
was
favorite
listening
part too.
to their Magneto episode, and I thought that my son was on his tablet, just kind of messing around on his way to practice. But we get parked, and my son pipes up from the back, "Dad, you got to get Magneto because he can throw like size 4 terrain and then give 4 power out to like the rest of his team, and his mystic defense is like high, and you can use it against all these other attacks." And I was like you were legit listening to the tactics segment of a Fury's Finest podcast as a 9-year-old. And I was like, "Buddy, I have great news for you. I already have Magneto." He's like, "You should play with him." And I'm like, "I will." But just being able to play MCP, being able to share my passion for miniatures gaming with my kids in a way that's meaningful for them, right? Like, so Underworlds never grabbed them. But the fact that they can put Ghost Spider or Miles Morales or Venom on the table and do cool things with it is pretty cool. So that was my 2023 in review. Trace?
Since we've started this format, I'll continue with that style of format of going through painted stuff first. So I actually painted quite a bit of Underworlds this year. So I painted Jason Zephylim, award-winning Ephilim.
Ooh, but they're mine.
Cyrene's Razors, Thricefold Discord, Scabix Plague Pack. I painted my Dread Pageant in a very like retro style 90s vibe with goblin green bases and bright pinks and stuff. They turned out really good. I was very happy with those. Morgoth's Crushes. Painted the Stab Lads, which Jerod has. And then I also finally painted my Thundrix Profiteers in like a bright, punchy yellow, which was fun. I did not paint as much MCP this year because most of what I had been playing was already painted from the previous year. I still have heaps of MCP to play, so that is on the calendar for this year to try and get more of that done. But I painted Amazing Spider-Man, Agent Venom, Moon Knight, and Rhino. And Rhino has been a lot of fun to play with. Just going all over the board like crazy and throwing stuff and throwing people. Yeah, he's been a lot of fun. And then this one's kind of special to me because it's one of the first things I actually got to paint for GW, which was the Morbeg Knights. That was a fun project to work on. They turned out really cool. Flesh Eater Courts have always been kind of a weird, fun thing, and I've never really painted them. And so that was something fun and new to do. And then I counted this because it took literally a month and a half to do, but a Legions Imperialis 3x3 board that I've printed out to use, and it looks really cool. I'm obviously going to add to it to make sure it's the full size for the game, but it was definitely a fun project to work on and learn how to do that. And I've got some plans for how I want to make it a little bit more stable instead of just being kind of a bunch of 6x6 tiles that can get kind of shifted around pretty easy. So that's coming in 2024, but I counted the 3x3 for our starter games that we're planning on playing into 2023. And then I included in here just helping growing a community that's not just Underworlds, like Jason said before. I think that's been really fulfilling for all of us. And I feel like it's something that we've all poured a lot of effort into. And so I just kind of included that here too. Just not from the Underworlds perspective, but just for the gaming community. And I feel like we've created a fun space for a lot of local gamers to just kind of hang out either on our Discord or on, in person or whatever. And so that's been very fulfilling. And then I actually set up my own hobby blog, like just things where I can just dump projects into or in gallery and stuff like that. And so that's been a fun thing for me to be working on as well. So all the things that I've painted, you can go check those out if you want to. So that's been my 2023.
Sweet. Get the squeaky hammer ready. Because in 2023, I did some.
Squeaky, 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 squeaky.
I got you, boo.
All right. So I think, for my 2023 for painted, I painted 11 Crimson Fist Space Marines. I painted Gwen from Iron Souls Condemners, and I painted Immortal Hulk, which is probably my favorite paint job that I've done in a long, long time.
You did a great job on him.
Thank you. And then I painted Spider-Man like version 0.0 from MCP. Those were the kind of the painting projects that I did. Assembled a lot more, but I think the biggest takeaways from 2023 is I played a heck of a lot of games in 2023.
You did, yeah.
Jerod, you referenced earlier about, not being around and schedule, whatever, but that I think actually helped us. It has solidified that we now play every week, once on a Monday, once on a Thursday, like rotating shops, officially getting a night where we're not fixated on one game. Now, for listeners, like our Thursday meetups, which are every other week, we rotate shops to make sure that the community in the greater Raleigh area has a local shop that we'll be at. And Thursdays are not focused on Underworlds. Now, does Underworlds happen? Yes. It's what brought us together, but it's where we get to play MCP. It's where we get to play Shatterpoint. It's Warcry. It's really what everybody wants to play. So other than the month of November, I've been playing games every week for however many weeks that is, 48, 47, something along that line. And that has not happened in years. Yep. So my biggest takeaway from 23 is I played a lot of games. And then the growth of the family games. So my kids are heavily into board games now, both Emma and Aiden. I'm sure if you've been poking around the Discord, like Laura Kana is there. Emma has played in her first, as my dog rummages through a plastic bag. Emma's played in 3 tournaments now for Laura Kana, so that's been a huge accomplishment for us. I've been fully sucked into a collectible card game. My son is playing Pokemon at the age of 5. And then even like just normal dinner table type games. We're playing Dice Throne with each other, which is a whole lot of fun to play. We now have a new game we just got for Christmas, Sorcerer's Arena, epic something for Disney. It is Underworlds in the Disney format. Like, it is a lot of fun, and they do a great job of breaking the game down into small kind of learning segments. So Emma has enjoyed that. And that's really like my accomplishments for 2023. I feel in 2023, I got to spend a ton of time with friends and with my family doing the hobby that brings me the most joy outside of work. So very, very happy where 2023 led, and I look forward to even more games here soon.
Sweet.
Yeah.
That's awesome. No, I think it's been a good year.
It has been a good year. I think it's been a bookmark year for us as a group.
Yeah.
Which is cool.
I'd agree. And I'm looking forward to seeing where it goes. And speaking of seeing where it goes, we're going to take a break. And when we come back, we'll talk about our hopes and dreams and desires and wishes for 2024.
And we're back. And we're going to kick it off and get ready to get into what we're going to be doing in 2024 as a group, individually. Just all the things we're looking forward to this year, our goals, our hopes, our dreams, things we want to do better than we did last year, so on and so forth, etc., etc., etc. And since I have the mic, I'm just going to go ahead and go. So in 2024, I have several goals. One of the first ones is aligning with one of the things that Jason said in his 2023 wrap up, which is my son got some Dice Throne sets for Christmas this year. And so he's really enjoyed it. We've played it a couple times already. He's beat me twice out of the 2 games that we've played. So that's been fun. But just playing more of that with him, because he just seems to be very interested in it. The characters are fun. He really grasped the mechanics of the game pretty quickly and was having a lot of fun with it. So I'm looking forward to that. This year is going to be a big thing for me, is going to be kind of returning to my roots as a gamer. And that is just kind of embracing the what's old is new kind of thing. Legions Imperialis coming out, Old World coming out, things like that. Really want to spend some time with both of those systems. I think that those systems are going to be fun when we're able to get our hands on them. I'll just say that. That's my only pause with some of this is
Do you want me to get on my soapbox again?
No. You can wait till your 2024 segment, and then you can get on that if you'd like. But all that nostalgia, like Epic, is something that has been very nostalgic for me. Growing up, I'd never played it. I always wanted to play it. And then Old World is truly where I began gaming. My first GW game outside of Battle Masters that we've talked about before was Warhammer Fantasy. That's what my friends and I got into. And so I'm very excited to see what the prospects of the Old World hold. And then I'm definitely going to play some more MCP. My son really likes it, just like Jerod's son has latched onto it. My son has also latched onto it quite a bit. He enjoys playing with them and seeing all the different characters. And he gets really excited about doing fun abilities and things like that. So those are fun things. Learning Shatterpoint, another Atomic Mass game. I probably won't get heavily into Shatterpoint, but as it comes on sale or whatever, I might snag a box here and there. Not investing too much into that. And then one of the big things for me this year is I'm just going to be okay with just accepting that I just like to paint Underworlds, and that might be where a lot of my enjoyment stops for the game. And just accepting that there's just things I like the game as a whole. But the game doesn't agree with me a lot. And I just have to accept that that's just kind of the way it is. And just there's some things in the game that I don't love as much as I used to. And just being okay with that, and just knowing that, I'm still going to be here for the community. I'll still play. But I don't have any aspirations to go win a golden ticket and then go to the world champs or whatever. That's just not something that I have any desire to do anymore. So just enjoying the painting process for all the lovely miniatures that come out and just having fun with that, posting my pretty pictures of them, and then playing with my nice miniatures on the table. And then my big goal for the year is just to see projects through to completion. I am a giant hobby ADD person, and there are so many things that I have great ideas about that I'll start on and then I don't finish them. And my goal this year in 2024 is to see projects through to completion. both in my hobby life and in actual life. So those are the things that I am ringing in the new year with.
I am going to go over my bookshelf over here real quick.
Sounds good. Yeah, I was waiting for that.
I was waiting for that.
Yeah.
No, that's good. And I think I was a little surprised by your being happy with just painting Underworlds, but not surprised. Like, especially after our interaction on our hangout day the other day.
I think the thing for me with that is that there's ways I want to interact with the game that just aren't in favor more often than not.
Yeah.
And because that's just the way that I want to interact with the game, and I don't want to play super passive and create negative play experiences and all this other stuff. Like those are things that I don't want to do. Because one thing that I've just learned over this year, just helping to grow the community, is just creating a welcoming environment for those players. And the last thing I want to do is play a deck that makes that person not like the game. So I'm going to engage with you. And that's how I like to play the game anyway. Does it always work out for me? No, especially not when I play Jerod Johnson. But I love the minis, and I just need to be okay with just not being a hardcore tournament player, not trying to be bleeding edge, all that stuff. There's other games that I know that I can do those things in, that I get more enjoyment out of doing those things in. So those are my goals for this year. And Jerod, I know you piped up, so why don't you go next?
Yeah, sure. So the first thing that I'm the most excited about is Rim Racers. So for anybody that listened to our Nova review, we were totally hyped on that game. We played the demo of it far longer than a demo should have been allowed. And when the pre-order window was open, I immediately pre-ordered it, thinking that it was going to come in time for Christmas. About 3 days after I put in my pre-order,
delayed.
The Warsenal sent out an email saying that it was going to be delayed, with the pre-order closing in January, hoping to deliver by February 29th. I think it's funny that they picked Leap Day as the delivery date, but that's neither here nor there. But I'm excited about that. At some point, I'm going to get a Joy Toy Nemesis Dread Knight. I have pre-ordered it.
Just so you know, the loin has already shipped. It shipped right after Christmas. Nice. I got my notification.
Yeah, well, I sent another email, so we'll see. I paid for it.
I got receipts.
I don't know.
I got receipts.
I'm excited to get it. That thing is going to be huge.
It's going to be awesome. I'm excited for you to get
it. They haven't started shipping any of them yet, though, right? It's not just like
no, not that I'm. Yeah, it's not just my order. I don't think any of them have shipped yet. Yeah, when I sent the email, I don't know, whenever it was, end of October, they said that the production had been delayed, that they were hoping to ship by the end of December or in January.
I mean, when you're shipping a small child to someone's house.
Yeah. I mean, that thing is going to weigh like 25 pounds.
I think it's because it has motorized parts in it.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. Yeah, and I would have been perfectly fine without the motorized parts, but
I just don't think, I don't know. I mean, I am now a Joy Toy collector. For anyone that's on Discord, I have all the Dark Angel Joy Toys.
Well, all of them that are released. You have a whole swath of Terminators to order soon. That you've already ordered that are being shipped at some point.
So, I don't.
Anyway, moving on.
I don't think that I think that they don't have another mechanical Joy Toy.
I don't think they do. Yeah,
and that could be what the problem is.
The Psy Gatling cannon is probably what's slowing up production. But I'd have been fine without it. But because it also has lights. Excuse me, I think. But anyway, so I'm excited to get that when it gets here. We're probably going to make this episode again in a year, and I will have not received it yet. and still be excited to receive it. I think my most favorite thing is that when I'm on work calls, like webinars and stuff, if you're paying attention, you can barely see the Invictor tactical warsuit, like over my shoulder, like when I'm presenting for work. There's no way I'm going to be able to hide an Nemesis Dread Knight unless I just completely blur my entire background. And I'm going to be honest with you, I don't think I'm going to do it. I don't think I'm going to blur my background. I think there's going to be a giant war dolly sitting in the background for all of my work stuff.
Like it.
Anyway, so sorry. So that covers that. I want to finish painting up the Web Warriors that I own. So that'll be the Amazing Spider-Man, Miles Morales, Spider-Woman, and then we played MCP at our meetup and at our like kind of OG gaming meetup. And everybody was using the fancy new tokens, and I was really sad that I didn't have the fancy new tokens. And I tried to get on eBay to order just the tokens, but people wanted like $65 for the tokens and the rulers and the cards. So I still had money from Frontline Gaming, so I just ordered the Mightiest Core Set box. So I'll have Spectacular Spider-Man to paint too, and eventually I'll get to the rest of those models. Autumn, my daughter really likes Captain Marvel, so I'm sure that I will paint the new Captain Marvel at some point. But anyway, Web Warriors is the focus there. We just found out that the new mutants that are getting released will be released on March 1st. So that's going to be Professor X, Shadow King, Bishop, Nightcrawler, Shadowcat, and Iceman. I'm going to get all of those painted. I want to have painted or paint myself all of the Underworlds releases for this year. So that'll be the next Death Gorge Warband. And then if the release schedule holds to what it's been historically, that'll be another core box plus 2 more warbands plus another core box plus maybe 1 more warband this year if we stick to the release schedule that we had this past year. But I want to be on schedule and get everything painted for Underworlds that gets released this year. I want to paint the Legions Imperialis box. I want to paint a Warcry warband. So I don't own a painted Warcry warband, and it is our favorite game that we never played.
I thought you painted the Shadow Stalkers. Did you not?
No. Never painted them. Nope, they're based.
They're too busy running away. That's what's going on.
They are too busy grabbing the thing and running away. And then I think I want to like go as hard as I can at Nova this year in Underworlds. So historically, I have just played for fun. Like I didn't know what I was doing at all the first year that we played, so I took Iron Skull's boys. I was kicking butt and taking names with the Othari until they nerfed the heck out of Power Unbound, which was fair. It needed it. But I ended up taking the Othari. And like they weren't good. And then Headcracker, that was championship. We had not been playing it. So I just took something that I was familiar with. Again, with Belmorn, I just took something that I was familiar with. So I think I really want to like focus in this summer and I don't know, maybe try to get a pulse on the meta and take something that's going to be really good and then just be really sad when I don't do well. But I don't do quote unquote well anyway. So what does it matter?
Unless you're playing Trace.
Unless I'm playing Trace, right.
Yeah, your win rate
and then,
me is ridiculous.
I know, it's so bad.
bad.
And then I don't know if it's going to happen. I would love to be able to qualify for Worlds, but I don't think that that's going to happen if the only big event I go to is Nova. So I'm going to start looking at options. I think LVO is not an option. Cherokee Open is not going to be an option for me because I'm traveling for work the week after, but I might look at Adepticon or Gen Con or some other big event. If I can, even if I have to like fly out like late on a Friday, land, play on a Saturday, Sunday, and fly out late on a Sunday, somewhere else, I would like to try. But that's kind of that's what I'd like to get done in 2024.
So we went opposite directions in our Underworlds journey this year.
We did, yeah. We did. And then, I mean, on top of that, more games with kids, and I think that's Rim Racers comes in there.
Yep.
And then I backed the X-Men Dice Throne.
Nice.
That's not going to release till late next year, this year.
Yeah.
But
Fall.
I think it's an accessible game, which means I might end up buying some Dice Throne. Maybe just buy 2 characters some point in the next few months and see if it grabs my kids' attention.
Once you buy a couple, you'll probably buy more.
I know. I'll just drive to Jason's house and
Trace did it the best way. Like legitimately. Like, so I have season 1, season 2, but Trace bought what he thought James would be into, right? Like he picked a wizard and a barbarian. Like those characters are very oh my goodness.
Malevolent?
No, yeah, malevolent. Very relevant to what his son is into, right?
Yeah.
So if they're into Spider-Foe, get the Spider-Foe one. Like
there's a Marvel Dice Throne that you can get right now that has Miles in it.
Miles right in it. So
okay.
Because it will like definitely help them.
It's like a box of 4, I think. And there's Miles. It's Miles, Black Panther, somebody else, I think.
It's Doctor Strange.
And Scarlet Witch.
Scarlet Witch, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Good to know.
It's like $60.
Maybe that's what I buy then. But anyway, but playing more games with my kids is really the goal there. Whether that's board games. Kyle bought randomly a Minecraft board game made by Ravensburger while we were at Target this past week. And it's co-op, and we played it. It's pretty fun.
Cool.
But, awesome. Getting more game time in with my family, I think, is another goal.
Yeah, that's dangerous for me.
Yeah, right?
It's a slippery slope. Why don't you tell us about what your plans are for 20?
Yeah, so for 2024, like
you're done, Jerod.
Yeah, it's just a slippery slope in the fact that I really like gaming. So if my kids show interest, it's like
game over.
It's very much game over. And what I've really tried to do is make sure that I'm not pressuring specifically Emma to play those games or play Lorcana. And, even tonight, as we record on a Wednesday, we get home from daycare. Sarah gets home. We're sitting down for dinner and she looks across the table. She's like, so we're not going to the tournament tonight? It's like, how did you even know there was a tournament tonight? Like, she knows the days. I am not feeding her the information. So that's really cool. And that's really my goals for 2024. I don't have a whole lot. Like, you guys have a ton of painting stuff. I think everyone knows I hate painting. So we'll just say paint something. For me, when it comes to painting, I think one of my 2024 goals is to just consistently get my paint station set up. I am not in a position where I can leave my paint station set up at my house. It has to get taken down when we have out-of-town visitors. And that is really when my painting stops. If I set up my paint station and it's there, I paint. When it's taken down, I lack motivation to put it back up. So just being more consistent and just getting that back out. And then to continue to do what we've been successful in, and that is grow the community. I want to make sure that I'm continuing to set up events for Underworlds, but also to drive more other game events on our off nights. Because the other nights I try to stay really quiet and what is want to play, because I tend to influence things. I'm very, very intense when it comes to what I want to do. But I think that we've done such a great job at building Underworlds. It'd be really nice to maybe we have a Dice Throne night, right? Like where everyone just plays Dice Throne and we do that. Or maybe start a Warcry narrative. Or for me, I want to play Legions Imperialis. So one Thursday for the next 6 months, we're going to do X, Y, and Z. But continuing to have those kind of events for our community, I think is vital, not only to continue to help it grow, but to support our players and our friends in being active in what we do. So that's really where my main focus will be in 2024, is just continuing to make sure that there's enough events for us to support our gaming habits. I would love to go to another event this year. I think I've talked about it with you guys a number of times. We do a great job at getting away for Nova. I would like a winter/spring event to get away with friends too. I was hopeful it was going to be Cherokee, but that is rapidly declining due to life getting in the way. But some other events here in the winter to spring. And then, Sarah's already got the beach house booked for Nova. So, like Jerod, I'll be going hard in Nova. I don't think I really care so much if I win the Underworlds event, but my goal there is to always play as many games as humanly possible. Period. So yeah, those are kind of my 2024 goals. I'm going to leave it open to what games come out, what inspires me. I know right now that I'm in Legions Imperialis and Underworlds and Loricana, but I'm open to whatever else slides by too. MCP, I'm just here to play. I don't know if I'm going to buy any MCP this year. We'll see what comes out. So,
No, you'll buy it when Doctor Doom comes out.
Oh yeah, if Doctor Doom is here, I will buy Doctor Doom.
Yeah,
and other Avengers, like I'm really close to picking up the set, although I don't really want all those models, but we'll see.
Nice.
Depending on how the Old World stuff shakes out, I might do Old World at Nova.
Oh, that'd be fun.
You had your opportunity last year. You passed. Square Hammer.
I did.
But now it'll be officially supported Square Hammer.
Maybe. We'll see.
I'm sure there'll be an event.
My big concern with that is just how well it hits. We'll see how well it hits. I'm probably going to get the rule book and the Ravening Hordes book and then just kind of wait for a little while.
For more product to be available, right?
We might be waiting a while if we do that.
Yeah.
But maybe
Nova 2 years from now.
Yeah, maybe.
I'm sorry. I'm very salty in product availability for Legions Imperialis. So I have no hopes that the Old World will fix those problems that my beloved company that I purchase many things from is having.
But hey, all the stuff that for the two armies that they've talked about are going to be available on day one for
That's
like
true.
5 minutes.
Yep. Till it's all sold out.
So cool. Well, sounds like we've all got some interesting plans for this year, and lots of games played with the kids. It sounds fun. Maybe we should end up getting all the Dice Throne kids together one day. That would be interesting because that sounds like an aligned goal for all of us. But just playing more games with each other, playing more games with friends, and yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be fun. And with that, I think we'll wrap up this segment and we'll close out the show.
And we're back, and that will wrap up the 57th episode of the Battle Mallet podcast. As always, we like to say thanks for listening. If you can subscribe in your podcast app of choice, like all of our social medias, we are Battle Mallet Podcast on Facebook, Battle Mallet PCast on Instagram, Battle Mallet 1 on X/Twitter. That would be awesome. If you're not following Tracy, is Al Capone on both Twitter/X and on Instagram. That's ALCPWND. Yep. So community shout out wise, I think we just want to shout out the Cherokee Open again. Cherokee, North Carolina, opportunity to play some Warhammer Underworlds there are also some other games being played there, I guess. Whatever.
Yeah, they're not big games at all.
Yeah. And then LVO, I know we're coming down to the wire for LVO. If you weren't planning on going already, you're probably not planning on going, but that one's coming up. And then Jason, we're keeping an eye out for something Underworlds related in the next couple of months here locally.
Yeah, so I mean, we don't have any dates to announce now, but with Cherokee open for us kind of being a hard maybe now, that would put 2 events, one this month in January and one next month in February locally if Cherokee does not happen.
Yeah. And then Brandon Huss, friend of the show, is hosting a Warhammer Underworlds tournament in Columbia, South Carolina at that computer store. If you hop into our Discord and you go to the local events channel, there is a thread for that. You can find the link to the tournament in BCP. I'm not sure if we're going to be able to make it down there. Signs are pointing to no right now, as the Magic 8 Ball usually says, but that could change. But I think that's it. So for the Battle Mallet podcast, we are an Ald, a Lang, and a Sign. This is Jerod signing out.
This is Jay signing out.
And I'm Jason Table New Murray. Get the hell out of here.
Peace.
Go Bills.
The Battle Mallet podcast is protected under the Creative Commons license. If you have further questions as to its use, you can find more information via links on podcast.battle-mallet.com. Music by Anno Domini Beats.
The poor have, the rich need, and if you eat it, you will die.
Nothing.
What happens once in a minute, twice in a moment, but never in 1,000 years?
The letter M.
Ooh, Jared's on it.
Yes.
Played a lot of Dungeons and Dragons in high school, Jason.
So
There are only so many common riddles.
yeah, so Emma's got this thing that Sarah's parents set her up. It's like some knight, and he sends her like riddles and like little ciphers and stuff. And the other one was like what begins with P and ends with E and it has 1,000 letters in it or something like that. Yeah, that's what it was.
The post office.
This